Well, this issue of Rolling Stone has Lady Gaga on the cover, but inside, the real story became, I guess, the now political bad romance between General Stanley McChrystal and President Barack Obama. General Stanley McChrystal, because of what he said in here, is out. General David Petraeus is now in. So what now in Afghanistan? Will we see a policy change, which, of course, is such a big issue here in San Diego, where we have the largest concentration of military personnel anywhere in the world? John Dadian, political analyst, here with us. As always, John, great to see you.
Morning.
Pretty unprecedented stuff that we saw in here. I mean, what's do you think the lesson learned now we've heard about this heading into the weekend?
Well, there's two theories, and I don't know which one to believe. One theory is that he was just, that he didn't realize the firestorm would cause. Another theory, which I think has some credence to it, is that he knew what he was doing. He was playing all for nothing, a little gambling, wanted the White House to know that he's really going to be a big player, and it backfired.
Well, because we had seen before when he had, or somebody in his group had leaked this idea that you need 40,000 troops in Afghanistan, that a lot of people in the president's administration were upset that they were putting him, the president, in a box in that. But basically, McChrystal, because of that, ended up getting pretty much what he wanted.
And maybe he was going on history. I thought the most interesting is a very lengthy article. It's very in-depth. They did a lot of research on this. But I thought one of the direct quotes from Rolling Stone, because he had misspoke about or spoke badly about Vice President Biden before, and President Obama talked directly to him about it, the reporter puts in the article, the message to McChrystal seemed clear. Shut the F up and keep a lower profile. So that's in the beginning of the article, and then a couple days after this comes out, we see what happens.
Well,
he didn't keep a lower profile.
Yeah, not a lower profile with what he said there and what his staff said, and then some questions maybe, can you keep control of your staff if your staff is speaking out like that? But now the question is David Petraeus, who a lot of people see as very different than General McChrystal, at least in personality. Same policy, but different personality. But are we going to see a big change in what's happening in Afghanistan?
No, we're not, and you just described it perfectly. Absolutely, completely different style, no difference in substance. You got to keep in mind, one thing that both of these generals have in common is a special forces background, a counterinsurgency type of background, and that is, they call it COIN. That's one of the main strategies going on right now, so you won't see a big change on that. Some people say David Petraeus is the one who wrote the book on it.
Right. Well, he literally did write the book on it. You can read the book that David Petraeus wrote on it, which became, of course, the basis for the Iraq surge, which a lot of people at the time criticized and said wasn't going to work, but it did work. But now, Iraq and Afghanistan, such different places, such different histories. What kind of strategy can work? Because most people admit right now what's happening in Afghanistan is not working.
Well, that's absolutely right. And again, some of McChrystal's aides in the article basically concede that. And they also concede this could take years, if not decades. When the American public do read this article, that is what's going to be a shocker. We've kind of heard that before and kind of suspected it. But when they see that some of the top people that are crafting the policy believe it also, that's the shocker.
So then what do we do from here? What is victory in Afghanistan?
Well, again, in the article specifically says on two different occasions that President Obama specifically did not use that word. It's not what he said, it's what he didn't say. And you won't see that V word. It's like the famous V word they say. You're not going to see that anywhere in the military, so they don't see victory. They're basically, what they're trying to do is stabilize.
And on that point, the big debate is now what happens next year, because they talked about this idea that troops will begin to pull out in July of next year. But now the president's basically saying that doesn't mean all troops are pulling out. General Petraeus saying that doesn't mean all troops are pulling off. This is the longest war in American history now. Are people sick of this war? Can they keep this going if they lose the support of the American people?
It has surpassed the Vietnam War, but again, completely different. That's apples and oranges, because the Vietnam War, of course, people saw it on the TV every night. We're really not seeing that graphically as we did in Vietnam. And also that you don't have the draft and a lot of other components. So people, the famous phrase that I think they said 8 years ago and they're still saying today is the military's at war, America's at the mall. I mean, people don't really understand it. So, yeah, unfortunately, I do think it's going to go on. The one thing about this administration and this particular president, he has shown that he's had no problems with either modifying, I don't want to say going back on his pledges, but modifying his pledges, such as Guantanamo and several others. So I just don't see this so-called pullout being on the timeline that they originally posted.
And some 1% to 2% of Americans actually fighting this war, everybody else not. But such sacrifice, and so many of those people actually here in San Diego, and of course we want to thank them for that. John, thank you as well. Great to see you, and thank you for your military service as well. A proud Marine. For more information, go to Sandiego6.com. Click on Hot Topics. We'll be right back. How about that bad romance? Dance it out, John.